Today, we're digging into the recent Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholder meeting.
That's right. A lot happened, but the main event really was the CEO transition. Warren Buffett to Greg Abel.
Exactly. So look at that, why Buffett's stepping down now, but staying as chairman. A bit about Abel himself.
And we'll also get into the key things discussed at the meeting itself. Some really interesting points came up.
Yeah, like Berkshire's massive cash pile, those investments in Japan, what's going on with Geico's turnaround.
Perspectives on trade, too, and thoughts on industries like utilities and insurance. Lots to unpack.
So if you want the full picture on these big moves at Berkshire and what they might mean, well, you're in the right place.
Definitely. And if you find this useful, please do think about liking and subscribing. It helps us keep making these deep dives.
Okay, let's jump in. The big headline, Buffett transitioning out of the CEO role.
Yes, by the end of the year. And Greg Abel is officially named as the successor.
Now, Abel isn't new to the scene, right? He's been heading up Berkshire Hathaway Energy for a while.
For a long time, yeah. Chairman and CEO there. So he's a well-established figure within Berkshire.
And Buffett, he's 94 now, stepping back from CEO duties, but crucially, staying on as chairman.
Which suggests, he'll still be involved, guiding the overall strategy, perhaps. Feels very deliberate.
A planned succession. Continuity, but also clearly a generational shift.
Absolutely. It's quite something to see after all these years.
Thinking about Buffett's history. His investment career started way back, 1951, at his father's firm.
And from there, he built Berkshire into this huge, diverse conglomerate we know today.
The annual meeting itself has become iconic. Thousands show up. A Q&A session.
Legendary, with Buffett and, until recently, of course, Charlie Munger.
And this year, there was a specific shout-out, wasn't there, to Tim Cook.
Yes, acknowledging the huge returns Berkshire got from its Apple investment really underscores their strategy.
Right. So moving into the meeting's Q&A, what were some key themes? Let's start with trade.
Well, Buffett's view on trade hasn't really changed much over the years. He basically said, look, balanced trade is good for everyone.
But imbalances or trade disputes, those can cause trouble.
Exactly. A cautious stance, mindful of potential economic friction from, global trade relationships.
Okay. How about Japan? They started investing there about 6 years ago.
Roughly, yeah. In 5 big trading companies. And both Buffett and Abel seemed really pleased with how that's going.
Pleased how? Like short-term gains or?
More long-term. They talked about holding these for potentially half a century or even longer.
Wow. That's a long horizon.
It is. And they mentioned building relationships there, maybe for future global collaborations. It suggests, looking beyond just Western markets, strategic diversification.
Makes sense. Now, the cash pile.
Yeah.
It's huge, right? Over $300 billion.
Yeah, cash and short-term investments combined. Massive.
And when asked about it, what was Buffett's take? Just sitting on it.
Not exactly. He said Berkshire is ready, poised even, to deploy a big chunk, maybe $100 billion if the right thing comes along.
If. The big if.
Right. It has to offer compelling value and, crucially, very limited risk of a big loss. He stressed that great opportunities don't come around every day.
They pop up sporadically.
Yeah.
So you need the cash ready to act when they do.
Precisely. It gives them agility, which does make you wonder, doesn't it? What does having that much cash on the sidelines say about the current market? Are there just not many great deals out there right now, in his view?
That's a great question for listeners to ponder. What about other asset classes? Like real estate.
Buffett touched on that. He acknowledged you can find good deals, especially when the market's distressed. But generally, he finds the stock market easier, quicker. Real estate deals can be complex, take a long time.
Yeah.
Stocks you can buy or sell much more efficiently, often anonymously.
So it's that preference for liquidity again, being able to move capital fast.
Seems like it. Consistency in his approach there.
Artificial intelligence, AI. Did that come up much?
Briefly. The insurance side of Berkshire is apparently looking into using AI. And Buffett said, Berkshire is ready to invest heavily in AI if a really compelling, understandable opportunity shows up.
Understandable. That sounds like Buffett.
But he also made a point about people. He used Ajit Jain in insurance as an example, saying even with advanced AI, you can't fully replace that kind of experience and leadership.
A balanced view, then. Technology is useful, but human expertise is still critical.
Exactly. Which leads nicely into the Geico discussion, actually.
Yes, the turnaround. It sounds quite significant.
It really was. Ajit Jain apparently laid out the strategy, led by Todd Combs. A lot of it was about getting the pricing right, aligning insurance rates much better with the actual risk.
How did they do that?
Big improvements in analyzing data and a major step up in using telematics, tracking driving behavior.
Right, the little devices or apps.
Yeah, that allowed them to catch up with competitors, basically moving from being disadvantaged to being on par.
And cost-cutting, too, I gather.
Significant cost reductions, yes, including, unfortunately, workforce reductions. But it all contributed to much better underwriting profitability.
So better risk pricing through data and telematics, plus tighter cost control.
That seems to be the core of it. Leveraging that real-time driving data was key, perhaps moving beyond older actuarial models.
Interesting. What about currency fluctuations? Did that come up, especially with the Japan investments?
It did. Buffett clarified that they don't make investment decisions based on how currency swings might affect, the next quarterly earnings report.
Long-term view again.
Right. With the Japan investments, they did borrow some money in yen, which acts as a kind of partial hedge. But that's not standard practice across the board.
But he does have some general concerns about currencies.
He expressed a sort of background worry, about the long-term tendency for governments, potentially including the U.S., to devalue their currencies. Fiscal pressures, basically.
Okay, let's shift back to Greg Abel. Did he talk about how he plans to manage Berkshire's operating companies?
He did. He suggested his style might be potentially a bit more hands-on than Buffett's.
More active.
In what way? Particularly in encouraging collaboration between the different businesses, sharing best practices, that sort of thing.
But sticking to the core values.
Oh, absolutely. He emphasized that upholding Berkshire's reputation and its core principles is, critical for the future.
It'll be interesting to see how that slightly more active style plays out across such diverse holdings.
It will. And one area facing immediate challenges is Berkshire Hathaway Energy.
The wildfire issue in the West.
Exactly. Escalating liabilities there. Abel talked about the steps they're taking, more infrastructure maintenance, proactively shutting off power during high-risk periods.
Tough decisions.
Very. And ongoing talks with regulators to try and sort out the fundamental liability and risk allocation issues in the utilities sector. It's a major headache.
Definitely sounds like it. Finally, did they offer any advice for young people starting out?
They did. Classic Buffett advice, really. Be curious, read constantly, find work you actually enjoy.
And hang around with good people.
Yeah, associate with people you admire. Abel chimed in, too, stressing the importance of just plain hard work, that it's foundational to success and the Berkshire way.
Good, solid advice. So wrapping things up, this CEO transition is a big moment for Berkshire.
A huge moment, a real inflection point in its history.
But with Buffett still there as chairman and Abel's proven track record, it seems set up for continuity, wouldn't you say?
It does appear that way. The core principles, the strategic thinking they seem likely to endure. Abel knows the playbook.
And the discussions at the meeting, they give us a really valuable snapshot of where Berkshire stands now and how it sees the world.
Yeah, insights into the economy, different industries, and those enduring investment principles.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is to consider that balance, continuity versus change, as Berkshire evolves under Abel.
What parts of the Buffett legacy will be most vital to maintain, and what new challenges or maybe opportunities lie ahead for them?
It's a fascinating transition to watch. This deep dive hopefully gives you a good foundation for thinking about the future of this iconic company.
Well, that brings us to the end of our discussion on the Berkshire Hathaway meeting. We hope you found this analysis valuable.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you did find it thought-provoking, please do hit like and subscribe for more deep dives like this one.